the thing that I have failed at most. I just haven't set clear boundaries because I've been too scared to. And I've always wanted to like give everybody everything that I can. I'm going to give you my heart. I'm going to give you my time, my energy, all my words, because I haven't felt deserving of holding much of that back for myself. Setting boundaries now is definitely something that I know is going to help me have healthy relationships. Full stop.
Hey everyone, welcome back to On Purpose, the #1 health podcast in the world. Thanks to each and every single one of you that come back every week to listen, learn, and grow. Now, you know that it's my priority to try and sit down with people that I think are going to expand your mind, give you incredible tools for thought, and help you navigate the challenges that come in your lives. And today is no different. I'm so excited because today's guest is none other than Fearne Cotton, a TV and radio presenter and author. Her most recent book, Speak Your Truth, was published in January 2021, and I can't wait for you to hear about it. Make sure that you click the link and order it as soon as you finish listening. She's well known for presenting on Radio 1 and on the BBC and The Extra Factor. She also is the host of her own podcast that I got to be a guest on last year, Happy Place, which was just such a joy. And Fearne, I'm so glad to be engaging with you again and being present with you again. And I had such a good time on your podcast that I had to have you back on. And I'm so excited because today I get to ask questions and you get to answer them. So thank you for doing this.
Well, thank you, Jay. It's an absolute honor. And yes, I will try and relax and let go and not interview you, which is my comfort zone. It's very awkward and weird for me to be interviewed. So I'm just going to like shake it off, let go, and you can do your thing.
Well, someone smart once said, "Speak your truth." So I will remind you of that today to speak yours and not make me speak mine. But I actually want to start somewhere a bit playful. But I've been loving your running selfie videos. I think they're genius and they're brilliant, and I've not seen many people do that before because it's so vulnerable, it's so awkward, it's so difficult, and it's a skill. It's an actual skill. And I wanted to start there just by asking you, what inspired you to do that? Because it's such a different way of connecting with people. We usually you have people finishing their workout and be like, just done my workout. Or you see people ready for their workout in their best athleisure, but you're doing it while running. Tell us about it.
Well, first of all, I'm not that person who wears like a slick gym kit and looks amazing working out. I tend to wear the t-shirt that I've worn the night before in bed and whatever leggings are clean and a bra that will support what's needed, and I'm out the door. And I think the main purpose of doing those little videos on Instagram is to get people to get outside. Because I know if I wake up and I feel a bit grumpy and like I really can't be bothered, if I see somebody online who's just been for a run and they look like they're properly pumped and feeling good and euphoric, I'm like, I've got to go. I've got no choice. I have to get out the door. So I think it's just to remind people that we've got agency over what we choose to do each day, and getting outside is a really good idea if you can do it.
Yeah, I think that's a great reminder. I love that. And it simplifies it because I think when you do see this perfect version of going outdoors or the perfect park or the perfect view, it becomes really difficult because most of us don't look that. I just got back from playing tennis, which is my workout every day. And I did not look like this when I finished playing or when I went out. And actually, I was FaceTiming with my friend in London and I was wearing a hat because it was cold in LA this morning. And he was looking at me, he's like, "Why are you wearing a hat? Like, why do you look like that right now?" And I was just like, it's so cold right now in LA, in the mornings at least. And so, no, I love that. I think that's a great reminder. One of the things I notice about you whenever I see you, is the same when you interviewed me and even today, you're always so colorful. Everything you do is so colorful, from your clothes to your headphones, to your phone, to your microphone, to the cover of your beautiful new book, to even the Happy Place. I think all the graphics and everything is just so beautiful. When did color become important to you? Has it always been important to you? And tell us about that journey with color, because I feel like when you're on TV in the beginning, you wear muted colors or you may have a stylist, but for you, you've just embodied embrace and embody color all the time.
Yeah, I love color. It's always been really important. I think it probably goes back on a really subconscious level to growing up. My dad has always been a sign writer since, he was a teenager himself. So we always grew up with a lot of paint and color in that respect. And I'm a massive fan of painting myself. So I've always been really into getting color on canvas and drawing, and it just makes you feel good. And I'm not one of those people that is desperate to look chic or to look perfect or to look really like sophisticated. I'm not sophisticated. I like to express myself, and I like to feel joy, and I like to push the boundaries in that way. So yeah, I think I try and inject color, like in my home, all the walls are painted in various colors, and it just makes me feel really good and just sort of elevated. I think when we're feeling really low and down, and we want to blend in, we want to wear dark colors, and we want to not be seen. So I try and push myself to get myself out there and, wear things that are going to make me feel alive and vibrant. So yeah, I'm much more color than I am chic. That is for sure.
I love that. And no, I think it's a beautiful form of self-expression. And it's nice that you've allowed yourself to just give yourself the permission to wear whatever color you want, to put whatever color you want on the background. And you do feel so much better from it. And I think it applies to something that I think you embody quite uniquely. And in your introduction's titled this, how getting quiet made me louder. And when I read that, and I read your introduction in your book, I was thinking about that statement. I was thinking about how people view wellness, meditation, well-being, positivity. Often it's viewed quite sober and still, and sometimes it can be seen as quite clinical and quite boring in one sense. It's like, oh, you've got to be very still and silent and quiet. But you embody it with this paradox, and I'm a huge fan of paradoxes. I love when two things can meet. And people often ask me, they're like, Jay, like you were a monk, but now you're in media. How does that work? And I'm like, that's what I love about life, that you can be two things, and you don't have to choose, and they're not necessarily mutually exclusive. They're not opposites, but they can, and I feel you do that too. Like on one end, you're speaking about calm and quiet. Those are titles of your books. And now it's about speaking your truth, which is all about loud and being out there and speaking up. Tell us about how you found sense or made sense of having those two seemingly opposite ideas.
I think it's just very much, who I am as a person. Traditionally I come from a broadcasting background. So I think I always like to also challenge how people view you. I don't want to be put in this, and it happens to people in the public eye a lot, that once you're defined as one thing, you can't change. You can't move from that career to that career. And none of this was on purpose. I didn't think, I'm going to, sort of move away from broadcasting and start talking about mental health or whatever. It was all very sort of accidental and incremental to get to where I am today. But I think it all does work. Like life is a big mess. Life isn't linear. Life isn't perfect. Life is never one thing. It's everything. Life is everything. And it's color, and it's monochrome, and it's loud, and it's quiet. It's absolutely everything. And I kind of have to find that balance, because if I, especially again, in the UK, being in the public eye, if I'm putting myself out there again and again and again, and also then you are open to whatever feedback you get, I have to find the balance with that, and find the quiet bit and find the still bit. And I don't think the still bit, I used to probably view it as quite boring and, like you've said, perhaps clinical or sort of stagnant, but I really don't now. I see that bit as exciting, because I get to process all the craziness that's just happened, or all the thoughts that have been building up, or all the emotion that I'm really not enjoying, and sit with it and just let it, permeate and be. And I just get to sort of look at that. So I've only really found that balance in the last probably 5 or 6 years, but I really enjoy just oscillating between the two and going with it. So yeah, I don't want life to be one thing. That would be terribly boring. I think life is everything, and it should be, and I hopefully present it in that way with the work that I do.
Yeah, no, you do definitely, and I think watching someone's. So I used to watch you as a kid, right? And I mean, when I say a kid, you were a kid probably on TV.
I was,
because I think
15 when I started.
we're in the same generation. So I was watching you on TV when I was growing up in England, in London. And when I'm watching you, and now I see the journey you're on, and now we're in the same space, and we care about the same things, and we value a lot of the same things. And I love seeing that journey. And what you said there was so true, that sometimes if you're in the public eye, and what I find for people is that even if you're not in the public eye, your family is your public eye, or your community is your public eye, or your university or your school is your public eye.
Yeah, it's for everyone.
Everyone has a public eye, even if they're not a public figure. And so often we feel scared or uncertain to shift who we are because people know us as one thing. Tell us about where you found the courage, or how was stillness instrumental in those transitions? Because you've had massive transitions in the public eye, with family members, with people in your life. What was going through your mind in those transitions? What were those points of courage that kind of you had to take, which I think a lot of people will empathize with and feel that they're in that position?
Well, I'd love to say that I felt totally confident making any big decision, but that is so not the case. I think, although it was all very incremental, there was, of course, a moment where I made an active decision to leave the main broadcasting job I had at the time, which was on BBC Radio 1. I had a daily show where I'd get to interview, the most amazing musicians every week, whether it's like Eminem, the Foo Fighters, Alicia Keys, it was just constant amazingness. And I loved every minute, but I just knew where I was at in my life, and I was having kids at the time, and I just needed change. I didn't even know what change. I just thought, I need something. I need to shake it up. I want a new chapter. And I had to jump into the void, and I didn't have anything to necessarily fall back on. I was lucky I had a home, and I had a little bit of savings that could kind of see out whatever this unknown period of time was going to be. But there was definitely no safety net. There isn't in my job whatsoever. You can be yesterday's news very, very quickly. So it was terrifying. And I had a lot of people going to me, why are you leaving radio? You're absolutely mad. It's the best job in the world. How could you, why would you do that? It's just a crazy decision. And every time I had to go back to the feeling of, I know I need change, back to there's an itch and I can't ignore it anymore. I need change. But it was terrifying. Like every time someone said to me, why are you doing this? I had to really step back and go, why am I doing this? And it always went back to that feeling of, I can't even articulate what it was. I just need change. And it was scary for ages. I lost sleep over it for months thinking, have I made the right choice? Have I ruined everything? But I couldn't ignore that feeling of just wanting something a bit different. So it was as simple as that. There was no, huge confidence or moment where I was like, I know that I'm headed in the right direction. It was just jumping into the void and hoping for the best.
I love that. I love that honesty. I think you're spot on. I don't think anyone's ever fully confident about a decision. And I think you're so right that when you're walking through that decision, you're holding on so tight to that feeling of, I don't know what it is, but I know I need to change. I think that's such a real, I can relate to that so much.
You can't ignore it. You can't ignore it.
Yeah, you can't. And have you ever found that when you kind of get to the other side where you've made the transition, people have now somewhat accepted who you've now evolved into, and now all of a sudden there's a pressure, especially with what you do now, there's a pressure to always be positive, or a pressure to always say the right thing or come across a certain way. Do you find that you also come up against that sometimes, where where now you get pressure for your new identity almost?
Yeah, but I think the sort of pressure to be purely positive I had really in my sort of traditional broadcasting career, because I couldn't have gone on TV or on Radio 1 and said, oh God, I feel absolutely crap today. There wasn't space for that. Whereas now, I think the only pressure I feel is to be completely authentic and completely real. And that probably took a little bit of confidence to go, do I want to do that? Can I do that? How vulnerable will I feel if I do that? but I feel more comfortable doing that than I did pretending everything was brilliant. I think I used to just feel like under so much pressure every day to have, the funny quip, the right thing to say to a band or whatever it might be. Whereas now I think if I'm feeling awful, if I've had insomnia the night before, if I've had a panic attack, I now have an audience who are kind of willing to listen to that and then to get into a discussion about it. So if anything, it's like lessened the pressure and I feel way more comfortable. Like talking to you now, I think before I would have had to be like, oh my God, what would presenter Fern say? And can I be funny in this bit? Now I'm just like, I'm a mum. I've just been out on a walk with my kids. I've just squeezed in a little Instagram live. This room that I'm in is a bloody tip. There's just stuff everywhere. And I'm knackered, but I'm really happy. And I'm presenting myself to you as I am. Whereas I couldn't do it before. And I'd had years of conditioning from like the age of 15 up to sort of probably my early 30s. And now as I sort of hurtle towards 40 this year, I'm pretty comfy being me. And that feels really nice.
I love that. I also want to add, just for everyone who's listening right now, that we're doing this in Fern's evening because she's been kind enough around doing it in my morning in LA. So she's in London or in England and it's 6:26 there or something like that.
Correct.
PM. And so I want to say a big thank you to Fern and a big thank you.
I want to say thank you to you because right now you've given me the best excuse to miss the most hectic, awful bit for any parent, which is bath and bedtime. I'm out of it. I am up here chilling. I might even pretend when we finish that we're still going so I don't have to go downstairs. So thank you.
I love that. I'm not a parent yet, so I guess I'll find out. But tell me where you draw that line between, and I'm really intrigued to get into this with you because I think I relate to what you're saying and I, listen to your podcast and I have read your book. And so I feel like I have a good understanding of your thoughts. But where do you draw the line between being fully authentic and accepting who you are and showing that, and then finding action and growth and movement in a direction? Because I feel like that's something you do quite well, where you're okay with accept, like you just said, and you gave a beautiful description of your room and everything. At the same time, you're someone who wants to grow and improve and step out. How do you draw that balance and line for even the people that listen to you so that it's more, because it's more, when I hear you and I read your work, it's not just about venting or expressing, it's more than that. Tell me about that. Walk me through that.
I can sum it up so clearly because I feel it in every bone. I am like the driving force behind all of it is curiosity. I am so unbelievably curious about all of it. And I think, now I'm at the point in life that I'm at, and having had the life experiences that I've had and the big lows and the big highs, I'm so curious to learn and I'm so curious to hear about other people's lives. Like that's the foundation of the podcast. I want to know like what drives people. I want to know what gave them the confidence, the courage to make big decisions. I want to know how they got out of like dark black holes that they felt they couldn't get out of. I'm so curious because like you've just said, I want to move forward. I want to grow. I want to expand. I don't want that to ever end. I want that to be just perpetual, like an omnipresent willingness to learn and move forward. But with everybody else, I don't want to be like, here I am, I'm telling everybody what I know. I'm with my audience doing it because, I could have had a panic attack the night before about something, but then the next day be interviewing some amazing, prolific teacher or speaker. And I want to get as much as I can out of that for me so I can help myself and also for my listeners, because especially at the moment, everyone is struggling. It might not look like it because we'll go on Instagram and everyone looks like they're having a wicked time, but everyone is struggling in some way. It's all varying levels, obviously, and in varying ways, but everyone's got struggles going on. So I'm not going to sit there in those struggles. I'm going to listen to these. I'm like, how lucky am I that I get to interview like Deepak Chopra or Elizabeth Gilbert? Like, how lucky that I get to sit and do that. So I'm going to get everything I can out of it because I'm curious. And I think when we're curious, we can't get bored, we can't get complacent, and we'll always be willing to learn.
I love that. And I think When you allow yourself to get curious about pain or challenges or pressure, as opposed to getting judgmental about it or getting self-sabotaging or judgmental about how you feel right now, you allow yourself the opportunity to go, okay, well, what can I learn from this? Or what can I learn from this person? When was it that you felt you stopped speaking up? Like, when was it in your life where you realized you were like, I've stopped speaking up. I've stopped expressing myself?
I think for all of us, there's, definitely this just, it happens all over the world. This very normal social conditioning that we all go through, either from our parents, teachers, just from being out of your own home, out amongst strangers, that you act a certain way. Like my kids are now 5 and one of them's about to turn 8. And, they're pretty wild still, as they should be. If they're unhappy about something, they will kick off in the middle of the street. I don't care there's people watching or that it's embarrassing or whatever. They'll just go for it. And, over time, we all get that sort of social conditioning that we have to act a certain way. We shouldn't show certain emotions, etc. Some of that's going to serve us well because we're going to be able to forge great friendships, get jobs, etc. But we all take it way too far. And I think for a lot of people, depending also on the type of person you are and the dynamics that you find yourself in, you might become highly responsible for everybody around you. So feel like you've got to always be pleasing everybody, and you shut down your own needs and the possibility of delegation, etc. So I think a lot of us start saying yes when really we mean no. And for me, that probably started at quite a young age, because I started in TV at 15 and I came from, a working class background. I didn't know anyone in TV. This was like the absolute dream come true, completely unusual. So I wasn't going to turn up and be like, I'm not wearing that. I'm not saying that. I was like, yes, I'll wear anything you want. I'll wear the purple corduroy flares. Yes, you can make me have any makeup. I don't care. I'll say whatever you want, because I couldn't believe I was in the job. And again, some of that served me well because I was able to keep going. But again, I took it probably way too far. And in my 20s, I think there were a lot of moments, either at work, but also in my personal relationships, where I just didn't feel the confidence to say my bit. I didn't feel deserving of it. I just felt like, well, who's going to listen to me? What's my voice got to do with it? I thought that everybody else was right, that everybody else knew so much more than I did, that I just let everybody say and do what they wanted. And I just remained quite silent. And again, this has been such a new thing for me, really within the last 12 months is when I've dug deeply into this subject matter. So really, it's only the last few years that I've even experimented with using my voice in a really authentic way where I believe I can help people, but also I believe that I deserve to ask for help, to say no, and to set really healthy boundaries. Like, this is very fresh and new for me. Like, this book is not coming from an expert-led place. This is like, I am on this journey with you. How do we do this? So hopefully the book comes across in a way that's encouraging, but also like, I am struggling. I am with you on this one because it's really hard.
It doesn't feel anything else but really genuine, where you're coming from that place of like, guys, I'm trying to figure this out right now. But at the same time, I think you said 3 really incredible things there. You talked about saying no, setting boundaries, and there was one more, but those 2, first of all, saying no and setting boundaries as being such important, simple steps to speaking up. Because I think even when we think about speaking up, we think, what does that really mean?
Yeah.
And there you've kind of defined just very simple steps that someone can start with. Tell us about saying no, because I think that was a big one for me. That was a big one for me for this year, actually, for 2021, where I've been, unfortunately, I had to email back a few people at the beginning of this year just saying, sorry, I've just trying to learn to say no and I just can't do this, and it's so awkward because you want to please everyone and you want everyone to be happy and you want to make people happy. And tell us about saying no and your journey of understanding where and when to use that one.
Yeah, well, yeah, first of all, it's absolutely right that I don't think speaking your truth is just like, I'm going to say whatever I want to anyone, because that's problematic. And we'll get onto that later. But I think saying no is a really good way of practicing this, because like you say, you want to keep everybody happy and sweet. And you also want to be making the right decisions so that you're meeting interesting people, engaging with interesting people, etc. But you know, when it becomes detrimental, there has to be healthy boundaries. And also, like, one of the easiest ways to test whether you really meant no, we've all done this. Someone says, not this year because we're not able to go anywhere, but you know, do you want to come to this party? Now, I don't really like parties. That, again, has been something that I've found the confidence to say out loud more recently. I hate them. I just don't like parties. I sometimes like my own parties, which is quite selfish, but I'm not a massive fan of going to, like, unless it's someone that I really know well, and I'm going to know everyone there, then that's super fun. Someone invites you to a party and you say yes because you think, how can I not go to the party? I've got to go to the blooming party. Then the day before the party, you're literally like dreading the party. You can't even think of how you're going to leave the house. It's going to be dark. You're going to be knackered. How am I going to leave the house to go to this party? And then on the day, you make up some awful excuse that, you know, your kid's got a runny nose and there's a work thing that you didn't do. And then you're lying. And then you don't go to the party. And then you spend all night at home going, oh, I feel so guilty about not going to the party. It's so awful that I lied. I didn't go to the party. If you just said no 2-3 weeks before, none of that would have happened. But not just like no with, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm not really in the headspace right now where I want to be out with lots of people, but I would love to take you for a coffee or whatever at another time, just so me and you can celebrate your whatever it is that's happening. Yeah. Just be honest, because people like that. People like honesty rather than you making up a lie down the line. So that's a really obvious example, but we have all done that. And you can apply that to work, family commitments, things you said you'll do, like favors, whatever. If it's not really what you want to do, that's all right. I don't think you're a bad person. I don't think I'm a bad person for saying no. We can't do everything. It's impossible.
It's a good example, actually, because I think when you shared it, it just shows you how the simple act of saying no in a nice, honest way saves you days of headache.
Yes.
And that's literally what happens when we don't speak our truth or we aren't honest with ourselves, is that you end up creating so much more headache and pain for yourself, because now you're thinking about this very simple decision for way too long. And of course it gets more complex with more complicated things, but it's still, the essence is still there, that you can save yourself time, energy, effort, relationships. All of that can be saved when you say no. You also spoke about setting boundaries. Tell us a bit about some of the boundaries you think you've set maybe in the last 12 months that have been really healthy boundaries.
Oh, this one I find so difficult. And I've really learned from some amazing people like this. There's this wonderful speaker and writer that I know called Donna Lancaster, who is like so big on boundaries. And I have learned so much from talking to her, because it's probably been the thing that I have failed at most, I'd say, over the years as an adult, that I just haven't set clear boundaries because I've been too scared to, because I haven't had the confidence, I haven't felt deserving. And I've always wanted to like give everybody everything that I can. I'm going to give you my heart. I'm going to give you my time, my energy, or my words, because I haven't felt deserving of holding much of that back for myself. So that goes into a whole other thing of like self-worth, and, you know, that can derive from all sorts of life experience, of course. But setting boundaries now is definitely something that I know is going to help me have healthy relationships, full stop. It's not going to annoy people. It's not going to make me ostracized from society. It's going to create really healthy relationships, even with people that I find tricky, or people that find me tricky, where there's like that discord. It's going to just help in every way. So I think what I've tried to do recently is be really honest about what I can offer people, because I'm a mum of 4 kids. I have 2 teenage stepkids and 2 younger kids, and I'm a wife, and I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend. I am also a very passionate worker, and I love what I do. So how can I spread myself across all of that and stay sane? And that comes down to just being honest with people. I I can't give you any more than I'm giving you right now. I love you, but I can't give you any more. And I think, again, when you're honest with people, they might at first be like, ouch, oh, okay, you're not giving me what you used to give me all the time. But I think that's just the initial bit of setting boundaries. Then there is a new normal after that. So this is something I am very gradually getting better at.
Yeah, because it feels like there's so much at stake, right? It feels like there's so much to lose when you start setting boundaries, because your relationship with this person has been built on certain expectations. And now you're taking away some of those expectations. You feel like you could lose this relationship, and that could apply to work. That could apply to a partner, a best friend, a parent. You know, I think a lot of people go through this with their parents, where they have a very specific relationship with how their parent is involved in their life. And now when they have a new person or a new partner or a child, it starts to change that relationship, and it feels scared. So it's almost like a lot of this comes back down to being so not sure, because like we already touched on that. You're never sure about the decision you're making, but you need to be sure that this isn't working almost. Like it's almost like you may not be sure about what is going to work, but you're sure that this doesn't work.
Yeah, like we all know the definition of madness, you know, like doing the same thing on repeat, but expecting a different outcome, you know, that is mad. And we've all done it. You know, I've moaned and complained about things or people over the years, and they want so much from me and blah, blah, blah. But I had never changed my side of the story. Like we need to be responsible for what we're putting out there. And, you know, it is very complex, like you've just said, when it comes to, you know, parents or very close relatives, because they might have years and years of being used to you being one way. And as soon as you change that, and you might decide quite quickly that you need to make changes and implement them quite quickly, that might not go down well instantly, but it's still going to be better than what was happening before, which was just banging your head against the wall, resenting people, you know, maybe bitching about them behind their backs, whatever it might be, rather than being honest, creating a healthy boundary that allows them to understand what you can do and give and receive, and also give them the opportunity to do the same. You know, it hasn't got to be a one-sided thing of you just spouting out about what you need and want. This can very much be like a two-way street of, okay, I can't give you any more than I am. What do you think you need from me? And, you know, you just use the word expectations, which I think is so, you know, it's so common that we have expectations of people because they've got, you know, the name of this role in life, whether they're, it could be mother or it could be sister or friend. And sometimes we need to look at what expectations we're putting on other people as well as ourselves, you know, and is it fair to have expectations of other people? And what are the varying degrees of that? It's all bespoke to what's going on in your life. I can't tell anybody out there how they should be living their lives, but we'll know deep down what what responsibilities we hold and if they're the right ones or not. And I have, I guess, over the years, generally been someone that takes on a lot of people's responsibilities that aren't mine. And I've thought that they were. And I've actually recently gone, oh God, none of that stuff's mine. I don't need to carry that. That's not mine. I'm going to just slowly hand that back and set a new boundary. But again, as I said, this is like new stuff for me. I'm learning it and I'm excited by it. So I'm talking about it so passionately, but it's an everyday commitment and it's hard.
Yeah, I love that. We almost have a to-do list for other people. So it's like that person's happiness, that person's stillness, that person's, you know, and it's nice because it means we care and we want to help out. But the problem is when you see it as yours, and that's the challenge, right? It's wonderful to be of service. It's wonderful to help people you love and care about. But when you start seeing that their happiness is your responsibility.
I think, Jay, you know, once you've set clear boundaries and you've reserved enough energy or whatever it is for you, you can be more of service to people because you're all right. If you're strung out doing everything for everyone and making sure everyone else is happy, you are going to feel horrendous and have nothing to give. So I think it actually allows you to be more of service to others because you're taking care of you, you're taking responsibility for yourself, your actions, you're not blaming everyone, but equally you're setting clear boundaries. You've got more to give. So I think it leads back to service, which, you know, you're the expert on. You're so wonderful when you talk about service. I think you have to come from that place of I'm all right, therefore I can be of service.
ultimately it comes down to what you said so beautifully, is that you should never see it as yours. That's the issue. I feel like as soon as you start seeing it as it's all yours and all for you to do, and if it doesn't work, then it's all your fault. And that's where it starts getting really messy, because it wasn't yours to begin with.
Yeah.
And I think that's where so many of us get stuck.
And it's tricky because, as a parent, that one is so complicated, because these little people, especially when they're very young, you are responsible for most of their life. But I think there is still this sweet spot of, like, say they are having a huge tantrum or seemingly unhappy about something. You can go into complete, like, self-blame. Oh my God, am I parenting right? It must all be my fault, blah, blah. And I think, you do still have to have that slight moment where you step back and go, they're little people, they are their own people. I can't be responsible for their, having other emotions other than happiness is fine. And I can let them do that. Like, if they're going to be super unhappy about this, I'm going to let them do that right now, and there is still a little sweet spot, I think, where you can do it, but it is tricky. And I think especially with teenagers right now, they're having a really tough time, not necessarily my stepkids, but I mean, in general, teenagers across the globe are facing a lot of uncertainty. The future is very unknown. And that for parents is really, really difficult, because you want them to feel okay. And at the moment, I don't know how any of us are meant to do that. So it is complex. It's not an easy thing to do, but we have to be able to let go to some extent, because it is out of our control.
Yeah, no, for sure. Lockdown, as you were saying, and we were talking about, as you've been touching on, it's been a really tough time for everyone in every way, and different things for different people across the world. But for you, it's also been a time of being really creative, and you've felt this really creative spark, both personally and professionally. Tell us about why you think this time was so powerful for that, because I think for a lot of people it hasn't been that, or they want to shift to that and they haven't quite got there. How was it such a creative time for you?
Yeah, I know exactly why, and it's really interesting. I think I've not been in my adult life someone that is particularly good at, like, going on holiday or vacation. I'm not the sort of person that's like, oh, I'm just going to relax for a week or 2 weeks. When I'm in that sort of space, and, the pandemic has been a much less glamorous version of that, where we're not going on a holiday, but we're forced to stop. We can't do anything. When I'm forced to stop, everything comes to the surface, because I'm so busy normally, and I keep really busy, and I'm probably quite hyperactive as a human. When I'm forced to stop, everything comes up. And I might have a period where I'm, like, so edgy and, like, physically tense, and, like, oh my God, I could just, like, pull my hair out. I don't know what to do with this energy. Like, I can't stop. How can I stop? And then that starts to turn into, okay, why am I feeling, what emotions are there? Why am I feeling like this? What does it root back to? And then I'm just buzzing with ideas and thoughts and things, because it's all floated up. All the stuff that is normally, like, below at the moment, homeschooling, cooking for the kids, making sure the house isn't a complete and utter tip, etc. Everything's just sort of rumbling down here. But as soon as we have to properly stop, like the initial lockdown, there was nothing to do. There was no work. Nobody had worked out how to do this yet, like podcast on Zoom. This was all, like, in the future. So I was just struck with, like, oh my God. And it coincided with me having this, diagnosis of a huge cyst on my vocal cords. That then again, there was no distraction from that, because there was nothing to do. So I was like, why is it there? I need to explore this. So I think in moments where I'm forced to stop, like going on a holiday, like being in your first lockdown of a pandemic, I'm wanting to organize it all and sort it, and then collate all of that and do something with it. So I think I'm quite lucky in the fact that that's how my brain works, but it's obviously really annoying when I do have the chance to relax, because I sort of don't know how to do it. I'm kind of awful at going on holiday, because I just don't know how to stop, because there's so much stuff in my head and feelings coming up. So there's good and bad to thinking like that.
Yeah. That's definitely there. I think a lot of people feel that way, that you go on vacation, but you're thinking about work, or you're at work and you're thinking about the vacation, and that whole dichotomy of always just feeling full, but in a difficult way. But at the same time, sometimes it's that fullness that creates something really special and beautiful. And so I think right now, if people are struggling to be creative, what kind of advice or tips would you give them if people were feeling, I do want to be more creative, I do want to use this time, I've got used to this now, like I've got used to the fact that this is life now and this is normal? Because in the beginning, I mean, in the first month, no one knew what was happening and where it was going. But now people may be thinking, I want to be more creative, I want to be more productive and effective. Where would you recommend they start?
I mean, I can only really talk from my own personal experience of how I do it. And I think any negative thing that happens to me, or any negative emotion that comes up, or anything I feel stuck in or edgy with, my first thought is, oh, how can I use this? What can I do with this? Rather than, oh, this is awful, I hate this, I'm trapped in it. I go, what can I do with this? And I think if you work in a creative industry, or your hobbies are creative, whether it is painting or music or writing or poetry, you can channel all of that. Like some of the best songwriters who I'm either friends with or ones that we all just know and love, you see them directly channel their most horrific pain into something so utterly beautiful. I'm not doing it on that level, but I am certainly using it to go, right, I need to do an Instagram live about this. I need to do an Instagram live about panic or anxiety, or I need to do write a piece about the feeling of dread. Like I need to get it out, and I want to then engage with other people to hear what they think, what their experience is. So it's not just this kind of internalized thing that I'm going through. I want to feel outside of that. Or what's everyone else thinking about that? Do you feel this? Again, it goes back to that curiosity. So I think if you are a creative, well, everyone's a creative person. There's no like creative type. Everyone's creative on a level. It just all manifests in a varying manner. I think you need to not disregard all the negative circumstantial things that happen to you, feelings that you have, things that you're witnessing that you feel is unfair. Channel that into creation. We've all got the ability to do it. It might not be fine art or writing a beautiful piece of music. It might be gardening. It might be making something out of cardboard boxes with your kids, but just channel it out. I think when we get stuck in all that negativity, that's where we get writer's block or can't paint or whatever. But use all that dark stuff and make it into something gorgeous.
Yeah, that's such a great point, I think, that you've brought up, because it's almost like everything in our life is cyclical and everything's going around in a cycle. And the challenge is that when we're feeling something, it's just getting stuck and it's just getting stored somewhere and blocked somewhere. And often we think it's not shareable because it's not beautiful, or it's not, but that's your point, that you can actually be the person to transform that feeling into something shareable, into something beautiful, into something not perfect. We're not saying to turn it into something perfect, saying turning it into something that makes you feel like you've had an opportunity. I think the example of a musician is such a great one. I think that's such a brilliant one, because all the music we listen to are songs usually about that person being in pain of some sort. And now it's coming out in this way, and we love that. And we need to do that for ourselves. I think that is such a great way of looking at emotion. And I hope everyone who's listening or watching today, you find a way to notice the pattern of what you feel regularly and find a creative outlet for that. And I mean, I can give a personal example. It's small, but it was huge for me, and it may sound really basic, but it was so big for me. I really don't enjoy working out. I never have. I really enjoy sport. I don't enjoy working out. Never enjoyed the gym. Don't enjoy personal trainers. Don't enjoy workout classes. Like, that's just not me. But I love sport. And so when I used to live in England, I used to play football with my mates twice a week, and it was amazing. And then when I moved to LA, I couldn't really find a group of that many, 22 people every week to play football. And so I started going to the gym to keep fit and healthy and all the rest of it. And then obviously during lockdown, that ended. And I was really finding that working out had become such a pain point in my life. It was almost like I felt that kind of block and to exercising. And when I'd go on a hike, it was nice, but I didn't feel I was really exercising. And recently I started playing tennis. And what I love about it is that I start my mornings feeling like a kid, because it's playful, it's competitive. I'm not great at it. Like I'm okay, but it's playful. And I feel like now when I start my day after having done that, I feel so happy and playful and fun and like a kid. And I'm like, I'm ready for the day, as opposed to before I was working out and starting my day feeling stressed that I hadn't worked out enough, pressured that I hadn't done it right, and then feeling tired from the workout, not excited. And it's so interesting how these really simple things, when we're not expressing that, like I need to feel like I'm playing and competing in a fun way. And when I'm not doing that, I don't get to express that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I tell you what's sprung to mind there is, this weird modern day concept, probably that all has been generated from how we use social media, that so often we're trying to like force our creation to this thing that, as you said earlier, ends up being this perfect image or this perfect moment or this perfect piece or whatever it is. So we're kind of like forcing our creation into this square, whereas let it be imperfect. Like perfect, so like what is perfect? Like perfect is just, it's subjective anyway, but it's become something that perhaps is more of a, like, well, it's certainly an algorithm now, like, oh, this has got so many likes, so this must be perfect. And we're all trying to create something that is the perfect algorithm. And it's like, be messy, be creative, be playful, let that pain or the good stuff come out and manifest and create something that is just you. So, like I know now, if I put a picture on Instagram of me looking dog rough, saying that I didn't sleep last night, that's me showing you what is really happening. And I'm creating a moment for you where you can understand how I'm feeling. If someone wants to have a go at me or they don't think it's the perfect image, I don't care. Like it's so not the point for me anymore, because I just think we can look for perfect everywhere. We can go on Pinterest, we can follow certain influencers on Instagram. We can find perfect so easy. It's all over the shop. Is it meaningful? Is it deep? Is it nourishing? I don't think so. But, look at all people that I think I class as like my heroes, like David Bowie. Was he this shiny, perfect person? No, he was this kind of iconic, bizarre creature who had, two different colored eyes and outfits that were totally not the norm. And he just broke every boundary. He wasn't looking for perfect. He was looking to express and create. And I think we've all become so focused on creating perfection rather than just what feels good. And like you said with tennis, what's playful and fun.
Exactly. And yeah, I can agree with you more. I think you're right. Perfection's subjective. It's not real. We all don't know what it is. It's elusive. It's ever changing its definition. When you look at, I've read articles and studies on like what the perfect body shape for a man and women that's been created by media and how it's changed over the media cycle. And you just see how like in different decades, different things were seen as perfect. And it's all just created and manipulated by what we see and what we're exposed to. And so there is no such thing as perfect, but there is just allowing yourself to feel. But what you're saying, what I think's the distinction that I want everyone to get who's listening and watching is, it's not just about feeling your pain. It is about expressing it, sharing it, creating from it. Because I think there's a lot just about feeling it, which is important, but then something has to happen with it after you've felt it. And I feel that's where a lot of us are missing that link.
Maybe saying using the word creating is actually being too narrow-minded, because a lot of the time, rather than sitting with that pain, you could choose. I often, if I'm feeling angry, I will run. I will get outside and I will run and I will listen to some like heavy music, like Kings of Leon's first album, which is all angry and ferocious. And I will run it out. Like I'm not necessarily creating anything, but I am moving it on and I'm getting it out. And I just know that if I feel one of those heavy emotions, I just can't sit in it. I've got to do something. So if it's anger, I need movement. If it's depression, I need to write, or I need to talk. I need to connect with other people about it, even though that feels nearly impossible. but I've got to do that. And if it's panic, I probably need to paint or draw or do something fidgety and like, you know, move and get it out of me. You just have to work out what's right for you, but like get it out, get moving, get it out.
That's a great list though. That's a really good list of, and that's exactly what I think about. Like I always say to people, when you feel hungry, you eat. When you feel you need to be clean, you take a shower. Like we have something to go with how we feel, and we haven't found what we should focus on when we feel something. And what you've just drawn there for yourself, which I agree, you're not saying everyone needs to do it the same way, but I love the way you made that really simple. It's like, when I feel this, I need to focus on this. When I feel this, I need to focus on this. And it's almost like each and every single one of us, and I know your book does this beautifully, you have lots of different activities and exercises and places for people to scribble, because I think it's so important to do that, to feel something and then move forward or focus on something else. So I think that's a really great piece of actionable advice that I would suggest, that if everyone can say, when I feel this, if I feel this, then I do this. And you can play with it and experiment with it.
And also look at what you do habitually, because normally, and this is what I've learned the very hard way, what I used to do was, I feel depressed, I'm going to buy some shoes. You know, I've done an action, but it's not been the right one. So I think we've got to find things that are free, because all of the good stuff is free. We've got to find things that are easily attainable or achieved. So whether it's just like drawing with a pen on paper, so it hasn't got to be paints and a canvas, you know, just doodling, like just express in a way that is like very old school and natural and free, because that will always be the thing that feels better than buying something, or like, you know, spending hours scrolling through Instagram because you feel sad. That's not going to make you feel better either. Or sending someone a terrible text because you want to blame someone else. Like, I think it's about making sure that action is going to bring you up a level from where you are, not make you sink further. You know, what's going to get you one rung up the ladder, even if it's like anger to, you know, just feeling a bit edgy. That's good. You know, that's better than going down into like despair. Just, I think it's about looking for the action. And I don't always do this. God, I will still sometimes buy a pair of shoes when I really shouldn't be, or, you know, say something to my husband that was like not his fault and just go and blame him. You know, I'm a human. I'll still deal with that. But from the work I do and the people I talk to, I definitely have a deeper awareness of the moments where I should take a good positive step in the right direction.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks, Fern. I love that. So I've got 2 segments that we end on purpose with every time. One's called Fill in the Blanks and the other one's the Final 5. So we're going to start with Fill in the Blanks first. And so, Fern, this is your fill in the blanks. Vulnerability allows me to
share. Like, it allows me to share. That is the gift of it.
One of my truths is
I still find it really hard to speak my truth.
That's great. That's a great one. Calm is found in
bed with a book.
Nice. Solitude allows me to
breathe.
And the last fill in the blank, my favorite color is
green. Earthy, grounding, green.
Interesting. Was not expecting that. Cool. Okay. All right. Your final 5. What's one thing you know to be true about yourself that others might not realize?
That I love being on my own and being quiet. I don't think people would assume that, because I connect constantly with people, but I love being alone and I love being quiet.
Yeah, that's the same with me. I can totally relate to every time I say that to someone, they're like, no, that's so not true.
Yeah, that's not true.
yeah. They're like, no, you don't know yourself, Jay. You have no idea. Yeah. Okay, good. The second one, what's the biggest lesson you've learned in the last 12 months? Boundaries.
I am learning it every day. It's the most important lesson. Set healthy boundaries with love.
I love that. If there's one gift, and when I say gift, I don't mean a physical gift. I mean like a gift of life that you could give your kids, what would it be?
The gift of learning to set boundaries, even with me, which will be so hard, because I'll be like, you can't set boundaries with me. I'm your mum, but I'm going to have to live that one to the end.
Yeah, that's probably the toughest one, I guess, when it kind of comes back at us. That's a really important thing, though. I'm going to take a slight detour before our last couple of questions in the final five, but we talk a lot about, and maybe you were saying about your friend and the expert you were speaking about with boundaries. We speak a lot about setting our own boundaries, but how good are we at accepting other people's boundaries?
Once we get good at setting them ourselves, we probably naturally will be much more accepting of those given to us. Like, so say my friend Donna, who I was talking about, every text she sends me, she goes, like yesterday, she said, I did this interview recently. I thought I'd send it to you if you want to read it. #boundaries. You don't have to. And, she'll constantly allow me to set a boundary. She'll ask for one and I'll go, no, I want to read it. It's fine. But I think once you're really good at it, you're almost expecting people to do it. I think when we're either being a martyr, which I've definitely done over the years, try to do everything for everybody else and put myself last, all that sort of stuff. Or we're just generally people pleasing. When people set boundaries, we think, how dare you? I give everything to you. I do everything for you. And you're setting a boundary, but that's only because I haven't set any. So I think when you're setting them well, you're almost expecting other people to. So I think that one will hopefully come naturally with the other.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I think that's also a great test and self-check on whether you're actually setting boundaries effectively. Is if you can accept someone else's boundaries, chances are you're getting better at setting them. Yeah, and it's a good test and a good check. I like that. I'm really glad we touched on that. All right, your final two questions. If you could create a law for everyone in the world to follow, what would it be? You can't say set boundaries, but you can.
Yeah, set boundaries. I think I have to look at what's going on in the world at the moment, and we certainly don't need any more rules, that's for sure. So I think it would be that we all have to just accept that we all think differently, because everyone's fighting, everyone's arguing, everything is so divisive. And at times we do need to stand up for our beliefs and join in a community and do good, if it's always coming from a benevolent place, with good intent. But I think we just the thing I think we all need to think, and the sort of law that we all need to kind of abide to, is we all think differently. That is human nature. That is law. That is what's going on. We all think differently. We're not going to always meet in the middle, and that's life. We have to be accepting of that.
Yeah. It's a great answer. All right, fifth and final question. What's something that you used to think was true, but now you no longer do?
I used to think that success was kind of the biggest, the best, the shiniest, the most perfect. Oh, I really don't think that anymore at all. It was the biggest lie ever that I believed. Success it's a feeling. It's a feeling. It's not a thing. It's not a number. It's not something that's visual. It's a feeling of, I could do something that was quite small and intimate with my writing, and it just felt juicy and right. And that is success. And I think we all need to, in the modern world, really look at that, marker of what success is to us, rather than what it looks like on Instagram, how many numbers there are, followers, money, shiny cars, whatever. It's just not any of that. Success is a feeling. And I've certainly learned that over the last probably 10 years of my career, I'd say.
I love that. Thank you so much, Fern. Everyone, Speak Your Truth is available right now. Make sure you go and grab a copy of the book. Like I said, it's got loads of great activities and exercises and lists and things that you can reflect on in the book, which is what I love so much about it, because it's going to allow you to go through the journey with Fern. And if you don't already, go and subscribe to The Happy Place. Go and listen to mine and Fern's episode and all her episodes with all her incredible guests. As she was mentioning, I think you'll absolutely love it. And Fern, thank you again for doing an episode of On Purpose. I still can't believe we haven't met, but I'm really, really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm actually really excited to attend a Happy Place festival. So I'm really looking forward to that. when those are back.
Oh my God, it would be an honor to have you there. But I can't wait as well. I feel like I know you from speaking to you and following you and messaging you. It's so lovely to connect again. And thank you so much for letting me on your podcast today.
Thank you so much. If you want even more videos just like this one, make sure you subscribe and click on the boxes over here. I'm also excited to let you know that you can now get my book, Think Like a Monk, from thinklikeamonkbook.com. Check below in the description to make sure you order today.
People go, tell me your biggest failure. And I feel like a fool because I sit there, I go, I can't think.
Because you were learning.
But I don't frame it that way.
What's your biggest lesson?
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a million of those.
Yeah, what's your biggest lesson?
So many of my ideas were terrible.
Hey everyone, welcome back to On Purpose, the #1 health podcast in the world. Thanks to each and every one of you. Now, I know that you're coming back every week to learn, to listen, to grow, to expand your mind, to be able to make a difference in your business, in your work, to make an impact in your personal and professional lives. And you know that I'm always focused on finding you incredible guests who I can learn from by listening to them and share their insights with you in digestible, relevant ways so that you can make the changes, so that you can take the steps in your life to overcome those fears, to put aside those excuses and start making real progress. And today's guest is going to help us do that in an unbelievable way. Now, I'm going to introduce you to him in a second. And when you hear his resume and you hear what he's achieved and the work that he's doing now, it is going to blow your mind. So this is definitely one you want your notebooks out for. If you haven't got your notebooks out because you're traveling or you're driving or you're walking your dog, then take a screenshot right now and come back to this podcast so that you can take notes, because I promise you the amount of mentorship you're going to receive is absolutely incredible. Today's guest is Mark Randolph, the co-founder and first CEO of Netflix. He's a veteran Silicon Valley entrepreneur, advisor, and investor. Mark was co-founder of Netflix, serving as their CEO, as the executive producer of their website, and as a member of their board of directors until his retirement from the company in 2003. Mark's career as an entrepreneur spans more than 4 decades. He's been a founder of half a dozen other successful startups, a mentor to early stage entrepreneurs, and an investor to numerous tech ventures. Most recently, Mark co-founded analytics software company Looker Data Sciences, and his new book, which he'll be talking about today, is called That Will Never Work. I love the title, The Birth of Netflix and the Amazing Life of an Idea. That Will Never Work. Mark, thank you for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Jay. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you here. And I love that title, by the way. I think it's brilliant. I can't think of the amount of times I've heard it. I can't even remember the amount of times I've heard it. And who was the first person you ever heard it from?
Well, I've been hearing it all my life for the most part because I've been one of those guys with these crazy ideas. Probably the most famous one is my wife, who you expect to be deeply supportive, but but it happens to all of us. You come running down with a great idea, and what did everyone say?
And she said, that will never work?
That'll never. She goes, and then? That'll never work, And now, of course, it's a joke between us because I've learned that she's kind of a reverse indicator. That if she doesn't like an idea, oh, right, I'm onto something.
Right. That's interesting. My wife is my mainstream test. So if I'm thinking about something and wondering whether I think it's scalable or whether a lot of people will be interested into it, that's when I go and ask my wife. So we have the opposite effect. But actually in a conference, you said that your #1 rule in life was staying married. Why was that such a priority for you?
Well, people tend to get this whole business thing and let it take them over. They think this is what's important, that somehow if I make so much money, I'll be happy, or if only this, I'll be happy, or only that, I'll be happy. And you've got to put these things in perspective. The goal is balance. At least my goal is balance. So long time ago, I said, I know a lot of guys who are on their 6th startup and their 6th wife, and I don't want that to be me. So we're kind of jumping almost to the punchline of my life, which is like the thing that I'm most proud of in my life is not starting this company with 150 million subscribers or any of the other things I've accomplished. It's that I did all that stuff and stayed married to the same woman, that my kids know me and I think like me, and I get a chance to pursue the other passions in my life at the same time.
I absolutely love that. I think that's such an amazing message. And I'm so glad that you're saying that that's the punchline and that's the real success. I think that's beautiful hearing for anyone who's an entrepreneur listening or anyone who's a business person listening. For them to hear that is such incredible advice. So thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I want to dive in. This interview is going to be really phenomenal because I think what you do so beautifully with your life, like you just did, is you have everything from business mentorship, you have life mentorship. You're able to really think about, and I was just getting mentorship on Disney World, right? You know, like I'm going to Disney World this year, and Mark was walking me through how to have the best experience at Disney World. So I love the breadth of your experience. One of the things I wanted to start with, and this is because I've been fascinated by this story. I've read about it a million times on the internet. I've seen so many versions, but I get to ask you about what happened with Blockbuster. And I know you've shared it before, but I love it because I would love to hear it from you because I've only ever read and heard about it.
Well, certainly. But the first thing you've got to realize is that people kind of have this vision that Netflix has always been the Netflix they know now, that it's in every country in the world, that it's streaming video, that it makes its own TV and radio, that it's a euphemism for getting laid. I mean, that stuff all came later. There was a time when if you wanted a movie from Netflix, we mailed it to you. We were a DVD by mail business. And it's kind of weird how often I meet people, especially younger people, who have no idea where Netflix started.
Totally.
And actually, again, you got to stop me. I'll go on these weird segues.
No, please, go for it.
A day before yesterday, Netflix announced that it shipped its 5 billionth DVD, which blows my mind. Anyway, going way back, our company idea sucked. I mean, we launched this thing and the idea was to do video rental by mail, and it didn't work. And it took us 2.5 years to finally come up with a business model that actually made sense. And here's how Blockbuster gets involved, is that when all of a sudden you figure something out, things take off and it gets incredibly expensive. And we didn't have the money. So I think that year we were on track to do about $5 million in sales, which is not bad. Mm-hmm. But we were also on track to spend $50 million.
Wow.
And you don't need to be an accountant to know that is not very sustainable.
No, good math. Yeah.
So there's a term in business called pursue strategic alternatives, which is code for we got to sell this sucker.
Right.
And fast. And our strategic alternative was Blockbuster. And Blockbuster was in a totally different place. So we were on track for 5 million. They were going to do 6 billion. We had about 100 employees. They had 60,000 employees. Wow. They had 9,000 stores. So we were nothing. So we called these guys up and said, we tried to get a meeting, nothing, like crickets. So going about our business. And then, as it happens, we were on this corporate retreat. And we were not far from here. We're outside of Santa Barbara at this dude ranch called the Alisal Ranch. And I mean, I'm dressed up today. I shaved for you, Jay. That is my.
You didn't realize?
That's my sign of sincere respect.
I feel terrible now.
No. If you only knew how infrequently that happens, you'd realize that's my genuflection. But so we're pretty casual in Silicon Valley, and so when you go on retreat, you got to work at it. And seriously, all I had with me on this 3-day retreat was shorts. I had some t-shirts. I was in flip-flop sandals. That was it. And of course, that is when Blockbuster calls and says, we'll see you tomorrow in Dallas. We're going, fuck. How are we going to get from Alisal Ranch to Dallas by tomorrow morning? And so we did that thing that prudent entrepreneurs do, which is when they're $50 million in debt, and we chartered a private jet. And here's okay, now I'm going to share the little bit of Netflix trivia with you, which very few people know. The jet was owned by Vanna White. Okay. I don't know if you know who Vanna White was. She's the woman who spun the letters on Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, wow.
So,
I did not know that. No.
Yeah, and I'm going, wow, spinning letters pays pretty well, I guess. So we're on Vanna White's jet. We all fly to Dallas. We go up into this building, this huge building, and we walk into this massive conference room. And Blockbuster guys come in, John Antioco, the head of Blockbuster, Ed Stead is CFO, and they're in their they're casual, but they're like Hollywood casual with the $3,000 loafer kind of casual.
Right.
And I'm in flip-flops and shorts and a t-shirt. And I remember I was kind of jealous because Reed Hastings, my business partner, was there, and he had on a Hawaiian shirt. He had buttons. So, anyway, make the pitch. We'll combine forces. You guys will run the stores. We will run the online business. We'll find another buzzword, synergies. We'll all live happily ever after. And they ask questions. And finally, they asked the big question, which is, how much should we pay for you? What are you talking here? And Reed, we had talked about this on the plane. We go, well, we're in the hole, $50 million. So Reed goes, $50 million. And nothing. In fact, I'm looking over at John Antioco, and he's like struggling not to laugh. And like, we're going, oh. And so obviously the meeting went downhill real quickly. But it's a fun story, but the real revelation took place on the jet home. And we're all kind of sitting quietly. And I know our CFO was there, Barry McCarthy, and I know he's sitting there going, all right, how am I going to make the cash last longer? And Reed, he's not a dwell in the past guy. He's already off in the future of some other business problem. And I'm going like, oh, now what do we do? This was going to be our way out. Yeah. And finally, I go, oh, okay. So I, tink the glasses and go, gentlemen, one thing left. Now we have to kick their ass. Yeah. So that was the moment when you go, my dad used to say, Mark, sometimes the only way out is through.
Yes.
And this was that moment when we go, okay, if we're going to make this happen, we're not going to have to rely on this deus ex machina of Blockbuster saving us. We're going to have to figure this shit out on our own.
I love that. And were there other interactions with them as well for the same purpose, or that was the only one?
No, there was no future discussion of collaboration, but there was kind of this friendly rivalry between the two companies. Sure. And it's funny now, you occasionally read stories in the newspaper about some grizzled veteran of the Vietnam War going back to Ho Chi Minh City and meeting up with this. And so I still have like email and phone conversations with the guys that we were fighting with at Blockbuster, telling war stories together.
I love that. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. That's awesome. Now tell me, you've obviously entitled this book, The Amazing Life of an Idea. And I think today I hear this a lot, and I'm sure you hear it even more than I do. But everyone has an amazing idea and everyone has a cool idea. But in your work, you talk a lot about how it's not just about the idea, and the idea is actually a very small part of it. Tell us about that thought process and why it's such an important message.
Yeah, it's everyone has an idea. In a lot of ways, which is why I wrote the book, is because, there's this, my daughter graduated from college 4 years ago, and I was sitting in the audience, and I'm just going, waiting, and then I hear it, which is the follow your dreams bullshit.
Yeah.
Everyone hears that stupid thing. But then no one ever tells you how. How do you follow your dreams? Because everyone has one. I mean, it's not just a business idea. We've all got something that we want to make happen, but no one knows where to start. And what I try and tell people is your idea is nothing. Your idea is not going to be what happens. Your idea is your starting point. And it's called The Amazing Life of an Idea because I'm trying to show people that the original idea we had, video rental by mail, was a terrible idea. But that wasn't the point. The point is that when Reed and I had this idea of video rental by mail, we didn't go home and go, great, let's write up a business plan and let's do a PowerPoint slideshow. We said, what? Can we really mail a DVD to someone? And so we just turned the freaking car around and went down to Santa Cruz and bought a Patsy Cline music CD and mailed it to Reed's house because we realized thinking about it was worthless. You have to start and try something and do something. So I rambled again.
No, you're allowed to do it. Ramble as much as you like. It's great.
That's how my head works. But the point is that these ideas are fleeting. Your idea, it's a bad one. I don't know why it's a bad one, and you don't know why it's a bad one, but I guarantee I've never, ever seen a successful company, ever, that's successful the way their original idea was. The people that are successful are the ones who take that idea and start. And then they find out why it's a bad idea. And then if they're clever, they try something different based on what they learned. And if they're clever, they try something different. And eventually you end up with a Netflix.
Yeah.
Your mileage may vary.
Sure.
But that process is
the ability to pivot consistently, the ability to
Correct.
shift direction. But I find that so often I think the thing that I see the most, and I think what people struggle with the most, is knowing when to pivot.
Yes.
And when they're going in the right direction, and how long is too long or how short is too short. And I'm sure you've seen this time and time again with all the companies you've mentored and advised.
Yeah. It's probably the question I get asked the most. And unfortunately, it's also probably the hardest one for me. I wish they'd ask me one that I was easy. But it's really, when do I know when to give up?
Yes.
And I think what happens is people fall in love with their idea. They get this idea and it's like a baby, and it can be the ugliest thing in the world. But to them, it's going, oh my God, it's beautiful. And they project it forward. They're holding the baby, but they go, oh gosh, it's going to be the smartest. It's going to be the first kid to walk. He's going to walk way before his age group. And they can picture it, in high school, hitting the game-winning home run, or graduating from college first. But it's just a baby. And it could just as easily end up, doing heroin behind the 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
You can't tell. You can't fall in love with the idea. What you have to do is fall in love with the problem. And the reason I say that is because the problem won't get old.
Yes.
And you'll never give up on the problem. Eventually, you'll figure something out. And occasionally, yes, you do run out of time, run out of money, or you go, I have no more ways to solve this. But it's much more evident to you than knowing when to stop hammering on your idea.
Yeah, I love that emphasis. I think that's great. And I think about that so often, that whenever you hear about entrepreneurs solving problems and that being the root of where everything begins, and I think so often we're like, well, what's my idea, or what's my passion, or where do I want to start? And it's like, but then I don't know how this links to the real world. And the only way it links to the real world is if it's solving a real problem. And I think you're so true that you can always go deeper into solving a problem, and you can't get tired of it if the problem still exists. And I think it's about finding a problem that we really believe in.
Yeah.
Because I think that's part of the challenge too, is we often find problems because they're cool, or they're interesting, or they're trending, but they're not necessarily a problem that we're deeply committed to.
So I'll play a little game with you.
Please, I'd love to.
And with the people who are listening. So I'm going to tell a quick story. Because I'm going to tell you the story because there is a way to come up with ideas that are good ideas.
Ooh, I like this.
And it's a simple one. It's by training yourself to look for pain. Despite being an optimist, to train yourself to see the world as an imperfect place. And I don't mean solving these global problems, like don't try and cure malaria, or look at something that you know really well, that you bump into every single day as you're either promoting your business or working with your family. Okay? So the story is about this job I had 40 years ago, and I was a house painter. This is during my university years. And different world, obviously, no technology whatsoever. And back then, when you would buy paint, it came in those cans.
I remember. Yeah, my parents used to paint
with a lid on it and that kind of stuff. And that was fine. And now, 40 years later, I go to paint, and paint still comes in that stupid can. And it's lame because first of all, it requires a screwdriver to open it, right? And then when you pour it, it all drips down the side of the can and it fills up that little limb, and you got to stir it with a stick, and then you got to paint, and you spill paint all over you, and it's just the most disastrous experience.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when you got to close the can, you put a hammer on it. I mean, it's ridiculous. But what happens is, if you're picturing, as I'm talking this about painting, and you're imagining painting, and you're going, yeah, that paint can sucks. Some people go, that's stupid. Why don't they sell paint like in a milk jug? Or even better, like the kind that you put detergent in, the detergent comes in, or where it sits on a counter with a little spout that it all pours out from. Or why isn't there an aftermarket lid? Or why isn't there a magnetic stirrer? But people automatically begin filling in these blanks. And it's a story that happened to me. That it's an amazing thing when people begin looking at the frustrations in their life without even thinking about it, these ideas pop into their head. And it's coming back to focusing on the problem.
Yes.
Because the problem will never get stale.
Absolutely.
And so much of what happened at Netflix was just bumping into one problem after another. And as soon as you solve one, well, lo and behold, there's a new one.
Yes.
And it's why being an entrepreneur is such an amazingly exciting business, because it's perpetual.
Yeah. And I just want to point out to everyone who's listening or watching right now, what Mark said there was really powerful, because not only is Mark talking about finding the problem, which you may have heard before, you may be thinking about before, but something he specifically said, it was like trying to solve a problem that you know well. And I thought that was a really powerful point, because I think sometimes we can get lost in problems that we actually are very distant from and don't deeply understand and have no familiarity with. And I think we are better at coming up with solutions for things we are very familiar with.
Yeah, you started off by saying that, you might have an idea, but you're not sure how it fits into real life or how even the problem fits into real world. But you figure those things out by actually starting to try and solve them.
Yeah.
And they take you places. It is absolutely a follow where it goes. It's a murder mystery. It's a crossword puzzle. It's a jigsaw puzzle. It's such an interesting process of seeing where this problem takes you.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, sometimes it goes into an area and you go, well, I'm solving a problem for 7 people.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, that's not viable.
Yeah.
Fine. But sometimes, lo and behold, you stumble onto something that everybody wants. And that's luck, and that's okay too.
But that's interesting. You've just sparked a thought in my head that I don't actually think of often, or I don't hear often at least. And it's about how that the number one thing needed to be a good entrepreneur or an idea creator and someone who takes an idea into implementation and execution is wanting to continuously problem solve. And we don't actually hear about it like that often, that someone who's an entrepreneur needs to constantly be happy to move from problem solving to the next problem.
Yeah.
And just keep going down that road.
And I think that one of the things is a lot of people, I mean, it's back when I was a lad, Jay, not that long ago, there wasn't this thing. There was a thing called an entrepreneur, but there certainly wasn't something that you became. And it was never something that you would go to school and get a degree in.
Yes.
Inconceivable. So in some ways it's good, because now not everyone who goes to a university thinks they have to be a banker or a lawyer or a doctor. They actually think, wow, I could actually be an entrepreneur. But the problem is a lot of them want to be it for the wrong reason. And they want to do it for the glorification, which is also a shocking thing to me, that they think it's the way to get rich, or it's the way to be famous, or, you're going to be on Shark Tank, or that is not what it's all about. I mean, we're here in LA, and it's like the people who move here from all over the world to be an actor or an actress because they think they're going to get rich and famous. Well, I hate to break it to you, but not going to happen, or at least the odds are extremely far against it. But if you're in some city and you're going, I love performing, I love taking on characters, you're doing it for the right reason. But then it doesn't make a difference whether you're rich or famous. You're still getting that enjoyment. And entrepreneurship is the same. And again, long way back to where we started, it's because of that thrill of solving the problem. If that's the reason you're doing it, you will never be unhappy in that job.
Absolutely. And how do you see it? Like, I know a lot of people who say to me, like, Jay, I'm just stuck with overthinking. I just procrastinate all day. How have you pushed so many people to take their first step or to overcome the fear of getting started? Because I've heard you say before that, and I love this, by the way, if you have an idea, you learn more in an hour of doing it than in a year of studying it.
Absolutely.
And it's like, how do you get someone to how have you seen, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, how have you pushed people into action?
So there's 2 things. There's one thing that you say, and you say, just fucking do it. Like, stop thinking, start doing. But that's very similar to the follow your dreams. So I'll give you a longer explanation.
Please.
I mentioned before that people fall in love with their idea. But what happens when you fall in love with your idea is you naturally embellish. So you start with this idea and it's simple. And it could be done pretty easily, but you don't do that. You leave it in your head. and you add something on, and all of a sudden you've added, it's a house, but you've added on a wing, and now you put a second story on, and then you add on the tennis courts, and you go, let's put in this beautiful driveway, and let's put in the skateboard ramp, and you have gargoyles and turrets, and you've got this castle in your head. Now then, when you go to price it out, you go, shit, this is going to cost a lot of money, and this is going to be really I'm not even sure I can build it like. It's too complicated and too big. So the trick is not to build the castle in your mind, but to take your small idea and do it. And if your idea is, I want to build a castle, the cleverness is not, what's my idea? The cleverness is, how can I figure out a quick, simple, and easy way to validate it? And I'm trying to think here whether I dare try and give you an analogy for that.
Go for it.
It's a little dorky, but we'll give it a shot.
Dorky. Go on.
And if I see you your kind of eyes kind of glazing over, I'll kind of know that maybe I'm losing you. So years ago, I was working with a young entrepreneur in San Francisco, and he was at a party late one rainy, well, that's every night, late one rainy evening in San Francisco. And what happened to him is something that happens to everybody at that situation, which is the party ran out of beer. And then they all been arguing about whose turn it was to go out and buy the beer, find an open liquor store, all that stuff. And he goes, idea, entrepreneur, he goes, idea, pain. My phone knows where I am. My phone knows my taste. My phone can have a database of all the open liquor stores that deliver. Credit card, hit a button, beer shows up. Great idea. This is a bunch of years ago.
Yeah.
And back in the day, to test that idea, you would have had to actually build the app, establish relationships with all kinds of liquor stores. You'd have to do a marketing campaign. He didn't want any of that crap. Didn't want to spend the money, didn't want to have to code anything. So he parsed apart the problem. And he said, am I really wondering, does my phone know where I am? No, I know that. Am I worrying about, can I build a database of liquor stores? I can do that. Will people trust me with their credit card? I know that. What don't I know? And what I don't know is, does anyone care?
Yes.
And more importantly, if they order once, will they order again? What's the average order size? So now that's the setup.
Yes.
Here's the clever, creative way of quickly, simply, and easily testing it. He goes, And what he did is he printed up business cards that said nothing more than, need beer, call me. And then he went and stood outside these apartment buildings in San Francisco on Friday and Saturday nights. Whenever someone in the right demographic came along, he'd give them the card and say, hey, if you need beer, call me. Mm-hmm. And then he'd go back and he'd wait and they'd call and he'd get in his bike and he'd go to the liquor store and he'd buy the beer. He'd go to the apartment and he'd put on a Viking costume. Mm-hmm. Don't ask.
Okay.
And then up he goes and delivers the beer. And he figured out how to test this idea.
I love that.
Not by building the app, not by raising money, not by getting a co-founding engineer, but by printing out business cards.
Oh, I love that.
He collided his idea with reality. He did the equivalent of what Reed and I did when we mailed that first used music CD. He quickly and easily found out, is it a good idea? And it wasn't.
Yeah.
Because everyone was drunk. The orders were small. They were all taking place at 1:00 in the morning. There was no repeat business. But he realized that with a business card. And more importantly, he had real people telling him what worked and what didn't work. And someone eventually said, I have an office. I'm an office manager during the day, and we do these big beer parties, and I'm carrying cases up and down the stairs. And then he goes, maybe I'll pivot to doing this. Yeah. And that didn't work either. And then someone said, would you stock my fridge for me? And he pivoted to that, and it worked.
Right.
And he took this meandering path of an idea, and the idea that worked bore little resemblance to the one he had at the beginning. It was another example of the amazing life and idea. It was the amazing example of looking for pain, another example of how to test something quickly, simply, and easily, and in many cases without even actually doing it.
Absolutely. That's such a great answer, by the way. I'm so glad you went off on that journey. That was brilliant. And again, I'm learning so much just by This conversation is unbelievable so far. If you've been listening or watching right now, I really hope you're taking notes. Again, all of this conversation, you'll learn so much more by reading the book That Will Never Work, which we're discussing right now by Mark Randolph. So one of the things I love that you point out there, which is so special, I feel, is testing that which you don't know. Right? Like it wasn't about building a database because you know you can do that. I loved all those examples. You know you can build a network of liquor stores that people have done that before, but it was testing the part that you don't know. And I think you're so right that so much we waste all our time and money and resources in building the website, building the app, building the platform, and not even testing the idea at its root core, which actually doesn't cost any money. And that's what I love about your idea the most, that people always say, well, I need some investment, or I need someone to.
That's dead on. That is exactly it. I am now the master of collecting excuses.
Okay.
Everyone's got some reason I can't do it. And that's I can't raise the money.
Yeah.
Well, it's because you designed a castle, which takes too much money. Figure out a simple way to try it. I can't do it because I don't have a business degree. I don't have a computer science degree. I don't have a technical co-founder. And these are all examples for people starting tech ventures.
Yes.
But everyone with their idea has an excuse.
Yes.
And what you have to begin recognizing is this a legitimate excuse or not? Am I just scared?
Absolutely.
And it's okay to be scared.
Absolutely.
But it's the nature of, it's risk taking is not doing something crazy, scary, dangerous. Risk taking is starting down a path where you can't see around the corner. You don't know what's next.
And not being afraid to reroute along the way.
That's the fun part of it. I mean,
it's not just jumping off a cliff. Yeah.
Here's another talking about cliffs. Let's go the opposite direction. Let's go up the cliff.
Yeah.
So I'm a climber. I'm an alpinist for most of my life.
Yes.
And in rock climbing, and now people climb in the gym, so maybe people might recognize this, that when it's easy, okay, two things are in place. One is you can see all the way to the top. And the holds are big enough that you can not only climb up, but if you don't like it, you can climb back down. All right. So then the next level of difficulty is you can still see all the way to the top, see the whole route, but it's so hard now that you can climb up, but you can't climb back down.
Right.
Now, the real scary stuff is when you can't see all the way to the top, and it's so hard that if you climb halfway up, you can't climb back down. But the other piece about rock climbing is that you can't always see all the way to the top from the bottom. So what you have to do is you go up the first 4 or 5 holds and, now I think I can see the next 4 or 5. And you go up those and all of a sudden the route reveals itself to you.
Yes.
That is what taking an idea down a path is like. It requires that courage to start, even though I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to gather I'll go on a limb here. You're probably a reasonably adventuresome eater just because of the travel stuff that you do.
Yeah, sure.
So you go into a restaurant sometime and you see something on the menu and you go, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
But you order it.
Yeah, to try it out. Yeah, to experiment.
If you have that level of risk taking, you are fine.
Right.
Because something comes, what the hell? If you don't like it, you don't eat it.
Yeah, right.
But occasionally you get amazed.
Yeah.
And that's what's so wonderful about trying things.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So well said. And where on the journey is feedback useful, and what feedback is useful? Because I think, you talked about obviously a wife, you talk about this conversation with Blockbuster, and of course countless more, but just this, I think a lot of us struggle with people's opinions and how people's opinions hold us back or focus back. And I'm not talking about the excuse kind. I'm really focusing on feedback and going, what type of feedback is useful? And how do you decipher whether that feedback is useful or not, whether that's from a potential investor or a customer or a client or whatever it may be?
None of it is useful. Boy, that's too simple a way to say it.
Yeah.
But what you're hearing is mostly right. Nothing is useful. Or a different way to say it, and especially pertinent since I'm down here in Hollywood, is nobody knows anything. Nobody knows anything. And that's the immortal words of William Goldman, famous Hollywood screenwriter, and ironically wrote 20 movies and won Academy Awards, but is known for those 3 words from his Adventures in the Screen Trade book. But he meant that no one can tell how well a movie is going to do till after it does it. Yep. It is absolutely true in any new venture. No one knows. And so anyone who tells you, well, I think this or I think that, they don't know what they're talking about. The only feedback that's valuable is the feedback that comes from trying it and seeing how the real person you want to respond actually responds. That's the only thing that counts. Investors, no, they don't know. And they also don't necessarily have the same criteria in mind for success that you do. Your spouse, God bless them, they want the best for you, but they don't know either. You just can't tell. No one can tell a good idea from a bad idea. The only way to do it is to try it. I'm sorry, I know that.
No, it's great.
I wish there was a shortcut.
So I guess looking at it from a different perspective is like, when are mentors useful? Like, you obviously mentor people and guide, and how do you know a mentor is useful?
That's a great question.
What type of questions should you be asking?
And since I'm a mentor myself, I guess I don't want to dismiss all of my advice, but most of my advice is designed around helping people get started.
Yeah.
And when they're starting, how to keep them on the right path of continually getting customer feedback.
Yes.
And again, I don't want this to be too commercial, because this advice is good for anybody who's trying to solve something.
Yeah.
Whatever you think your problem is trying to solve, even if it's a problem of your own, you want to collide that with the reality as soon as you can. And that's the feedback. But yes, having a mentor who understands what you're up against and has confidence in you and that you enjoy spending time with, that's the three the three critical things.
Interesting.
I mean, now I can't remember at the very beginning of our conversation, but in many ways, I do a lot of work with early stage founders. So I'm a mentor, or you can call me a founder coach. But what's interesting is most of my job is marriage counseling.
Wow.
Is that because the real challenges are those.
Wow.
Oh, that's where this came from. We were talking about at the beginning about life balance.
Yes.
How do you do this at the same time keep yourself healthy and keep yourself sane and maintain your relationships and keep your hobbies alive? And so it's funny, people can be brilliant marketers or brilliant technologists, and the thing they struggle with is that.
Wow.
And at least in the tech world, where I spend a lot of my time, the most stable configuration is two founders, a tech and a business. But it's one from Mars and one from Venus.
Yes.
And they're spending more time together than they would with their partners. And you realize that helping them keep that relationship healthy is critical and hard. It's incredibly lonely being a CEO, because you can't necessarily reveal everything to your employees, and you can't necessarily reveal everything to your board, who is your boss. And so there's really no one who understands that you can talk to. That's another role that a mentor plays. So you're kind of gathering not just the role a mentor plays, but how much of making a company successful is emotional and psychological, not technical and accounting.
Yeah, I love that answer. Let's dive a bit into the marriage counseling, because I know that my audience is so focused on learning about relationships, and I love learning about it too. And I'd love to hear from your perspectives and learn from you as well. What have you seen have been the kind of like the building blocks of making sure that a relationship with your spouse or your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever it may be has been able to be maintained through the growth and momentum of a successful company?
So one thing I've learned is I can't speak for humanity. I know what's worked for me.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
And I know what's kept. But again, I just want to make sure that that it's not a miracle, and I'm not a guru in this sort of thing. But what works for me is radical honesty. And what's interesting is that radical honesty is the principle that I use with my wife. It's what I use with my kids, but it's what Reed Hastings and I use with each other. It's what I use with my employees. Life is way too short to bullshit people. And more than that, people are smart and they can tell when they're being spun. And there's something incredibly powerful about speaking from the heart. And honesty doesn't mean just delivering bad news. It means delivering good news. It means revealing your vulnerabilities. It means admitting I don't know something. It means saying you're right and I was wrong. I mean, but it's an incredibly powerful thing. And I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, it's not easy.
And in terms of time and energy, do you feel that in the growth of stages of a company, is it impossible? Is it like literally impossible to spend quality time with your partner, or is there any balance, or what is the reality of it? I guess
it is difficult. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Having a startup, launching Netflix was like having a second family, a family who woke up in the middle of the night and cried, a family that required you to go away and take care of an emergency. And you also have your real family. And I had young kids who were waking up in the middle of the night and crying and were requiring me to travel away on emergencies. So it pulls you in all directions. And it's almost like the Big Rocks model of time allocation. You've got to pick the things that are critical and make sure you carve out the space to fit those in. And at Netflix, in those first few years, even before then, my wife and I had this principle that every Tuesday, 5 p.m. sharp, I would leave the office. And she had a babysitter, and we would have a date night.
Yeah.
We just go downtown, we go for a walk, we'd glass of wine, go see a movie, but we'd spend time together away from the kids, away from the business. And it was really hard at first to preserve that time because it's a startup and everyone's always grabbing you. So in an emergency meeting before 5, need to talk to you on the way to the car.
Yeah.
But the magic of it is that once you've defended it successfully for a month or two, everyone realizes it's futile to even ask. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, they all begin going like, well, nothing's going to happen on Tuesdays after 5. I can now take some time off on Tuesday after 5.
Absolutely.
And it ends up giving them space. But perhaps the most important thing is it models for everybody what the culture really is. Mm-hmm. It models what the priorities are.
Absolutely.
If the CEO of the company can do this, well then I guess I can too.
Yeah, sure.
And culture is not what you say.
Yeah.
It's what you do.
Yeah.
So we can talk all we want about how we believe in family and balance, but then no one ever takes vacations and everyone is there until midnight every night. That's saying one thing and doing another, which besides not modeling the behavior also says that you are insincere, liar. So, the probably the most important lesson that I've learned from 40 years of being an entrepreneur is, and this is going to sound strange, but I am not that special. I've really come to realize that so much of what I've done are things that anybody could do, that these things which I try and beat into people are not rocket science. They're not things that take a great education. You don't even need to be that smart. It's an attitude. It's being willing to start. It's being willing to take a risk. And those are things that anybody can do. And I've just realized almost everyone I speak to, they're smarter than I am. They're more hardworking than I am. They're better prepared than I am. And they just need to get going. And if I can let people know they can do this, then I will really have accomplished something in my life.
Oh, that's beautiful, Mark. And thank you so much for placing such a strong emphasis on life, as opposed to just business and as opposed to just investments and mentorship and entrepreneurship, but really putting that emphasis on relationships and love and connection and service. So thank you so much for doing that.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. And I think I love that about setting and preserving these rituals. That's kind of what it is. It's like, it's not, I think when we leave it open, like, oh yeah, we'll try and find some time this week to spend time together. You never do.
Yes.
Right? It's almost like it needs to be, the structure lets you be spontaneous, I feel like if you just leave it to spontaneity, then you'll never find any structure. But when you start with structure, you can find spontaneity. So maybe one day you went for a walk or you went for a dinner or you went for a movie and you could do whatever it was. But setting that structure is so helpful and useful.
I really agree.
Yeah.
I mean, and having rhythm to a life.
Rhythm
helps as well. I mean, I know that you have this nice rhythm set up. So okay, Mondays I'm busy.
Yes.
But other days you can grab time for other things. I mean, it's just a matter of figuring out how to make your life work with your work.
Yes, absolutely. No, I love that. Great advice. And then again, what you mentioned, the second partnership, which is usually this co-founder partnership, and you and Reed Hastings used to commute to work together.
Yeah.
Right. Tell us about that, because that's fascinating. Is that pretty common in the startup world of co-founders?
No.
Commuting to work together? And it's cool. I love it. I think it's great.
It is. I mean, and one little piece of it is that so much of a startup is luck. I mean, there's certainly a lot of things about the Netflix story which were luck. The DVD player actually being widely adopted was luck. The fact that Blockbuster said no was luck. I mean, you can, I'm here because I did a bunch of things right, but I also had a huge amount of things break my way. But one of the lucky breaks was that Reed Hastings' company bought a company that I had helped start. And that was luck. But then the real luck was that he happened to coincidentally live in the same town as I did. And that we began carpooling back and forth. And so we became friends in this weird way that would probably not have happened organically. And then the other lucky thing is this company that Reed was running that bought my company, it was again acquired by someone else, and we were both being fired. So there was another lucky break. So a lot of things conspired to all of a sudden have Reed and I together on a 40-minute to 40-hour commute, knowing that in 6 months or so we'd both be out of jobs.
Wow.
And that began the process of saying, well, Reed was saying, I'm going to go back to school, get my higher degree in education and change the world. And me saying, I'm going to go start another company. And then him saying, I kind of want to keep my hands in this whole entrepreneurial thing. So how about this? I will be your angel investor. And we decided to come up with an idea together, and that he'd fund it, I would run it, and away we'd go. And that began these crazy car rides over the hill, as we call it, going over the mountains every day from Santa Cruz to Sunnyvale, brainstorming ideas about pain we'd had, about ideas we'd come up with. And going back to that amazing life of an idea, most of the ideas we came up with were terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not like we're going, gosh, we've got to think of an idea about movies because we're both passionate about movies. We were throwing all kinds of crap at the wall. I mean, one of the things Netflix almost was personalized baseball bats. Like made on a computer-driven milling machine.
Yeah, right.
Like just to your exact specifications, Jay. Another was customized shampoo. Like you mail in a lock of your hair, and we'd formulate it just for you. But I'd then go into my little office and research them all day, and then the drive back, I would tell Reed what I learned, and little by little, went through hundreds of ideas. And even one of them was, let's do video rental. Let's try video rental by mail. Because video rental, big category. And I had previously in my career done a lot of mail order stuff and direct mail.
Stuff you knew.
Stuff I knew.
Yeah.
Then I'd seen the problems. And both of us had seen the problems with video rental. Who hadn't? But back then, video came on those VHS cassettes.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, your age, you probably watched Lion King about 6,000 times.
Yes.
On your VHS cassette. But it didn't work. Like too heavy, too expensive, too fragile. And so that idea got abandoned, and then on to the next crazy idea. And that's where the DVD came in. Because on one of these rides, Reed mentioned that this new technology, DVD, and they go, wow, what is it? Like, well, it's this little disc the size of a music CD. And we're going, thin and light.
It's cheap. Yeah.
Cheap. This might change some things. But then that's where it comes down to don't think, act.
Yeah.
So rather than this big debate about who can we ask whether mailing a DVD is too fragile, and let's build a business plan, and let's imagine how we're going to build the website. We went, screw it. Let's just take the first step and see if you can actually mail one of these things to yourself, which is when we turned the car around and drove back to Santa Cruz and went to Logos Record and Tape, used music store, and bought a Patsy Cline music CD. And then 2 doors down to the stationery shop and bought the little pink gift envelope that you put a greeting card in, and CD in the envelope, and address to Reed's house in Santa Cruz, and pop it in the slot. and go to work. And then 24 hours later, Reed shows up, doesn't even say a word, just holds up the little CD, unbroken, that got to his house for 29 cents. And we went, there might be some merit to this video by mail after all.
Wow. So you see that in all the examples you're sharing with me, we know that the more we experiment, the more we fail, right? It's the more we experiment, the more you're going to fail, because the more mistakes you're going to make, the more you're going to have to pivot, the more you're going to have to figure things out. How have you and Reed consistently gone through failure after failure after failure? And when was there a time when you were failing where you just felt like this is not going to happen? Like this is not working. And how did you get through that one?
So, every failure is a learning. And people go, tell me your biggest failure. And I feel like a fool because I sit there, I go, I can't think.
Because you were learning.
But I don't frame it that way.
What's your biggest lesson?
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a million of those.
Yeah. What's your biggest lesson?
So many of my ideas were terrible.
Yeah.
Biggest lesson, okay, it's the power of focus and the courage of walking away from today in exchange for tomorrow. And that sounds so simple. And boy, it's hard. And when we launched Netflix, it sold DVDs and it rented DVDs. And about 2 months in, we were crushing it. $100,000 in that first month, all selling DVDs. And that was a disaster because we knew Amazon was going to come in, and that was not sustainable. And we did this for months and months and couldn't get rental to work. And then finally realized that doing the sales is paying the bills, but ironically, it's making it harder to get rental to work because it's confusing for customers. We're spending all of our time on sales and not focusing on rental. So there you come down to the realization, if you're going to do something, pick one thing and do everything you've got on it. But then comes the courage, which is what? Do you focus on the sales, which is paying the bills, but it's eventually going to go out of business? Or do you bet it all on this unproven technology? There's renting DVDs by the mail, which was showing no signs. So we, in one day, pulled the plug.
Wow.
Walked away from selling DVDs entirely. 99% of our revenue turned off like a light switch. But it focused the mind on how to make rental work. Yeah. And this scales large, that everyone has this problem where they're doing something that's working, and they know that's not the future. That's not what people want in the future. But they're scared to do it. And you can take it at a personal level. You really want to take a swing at doing this. But God, I have this job and it's paying my rent and you're trapped. And that is the most tragic thing I can imagine. People feeling trapped. And I'm not naive. I'm not saying, walk away. Just pull the plug, but start. Start. Dreaming about it will leave you trapped even longer. You have to recognize it's really hard to do two things really, really well.
No, I agree with you. I think, I've had mentors who've said to me before that, when you're really in pain, that's when you will find your potential and that's when you'll be able to break through. And I used to always be like, oh yeah, that makes sense, but I'm proactive. Like, that's not true. Like, and then I realized that actually when you felt the plug was being pulled for you, or you pulled the plug for yourself, that's when you really dug deep. And you almost work harder because now you can't come back to what you had the day before in terms of your example. You're not coming back to, oh yeah, we already know we make X amount of money through this.
Right.
You've now made it impossible for yourself to rely on something that doesn't have a future, and now you've got to find something. And it's in that point that you're more likely to find something because you don't have a choice.
Absolutely
and,
right.
And I think it's almost like giving yourself no choice whenever that's right for you personally is a good way to go, because I've found that when I've had no choice, that's often been the time when I've done my best work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a courage thing too.
It is.
I mean, you can wait till desperation, but you can also say, I'm going to just give it a shot. Do you know who Ernest Shackleton is? Have you ever heard?
No, I don't know.
Ernest Shackleton, he's kind of my hero.
Okay.
And he's a polar explorer.
Okay.
And this is the turn of the last century. And he wanted to be the first person to travel by land over the Antarctic continent. So I will not tell this whole story. It is the most unbelievable story, though. But anyway, he has this boat. It's the unsinkable wooden boat, and he's sailing to drop off him and his expedition, and they get stuck in the ice. And they go, no big deal. So they all pile off they will wait till the spring when it melts. So they all pile off, and they have camps on the ice. But of course, the ice crushes the boat, and the boat sinks. So now they're all sitting on this ice floe, and it's pretty cushy. They've have dog sled races, and they got all kinds of food, and they have wood from the boat for fires. And he's watching this ice floe as the spring comes get smaller and smaller. And he's going, well, I can sit here in my comfortable surroundings until all of a sudden we're all dropped in the ocean. Or I could take advantage of the fact that it's spring and there's open water, and I can put my entire expedition in our 3 lifeboats and see what happens. And it thus begins one of the most unbelievable stories of adventure and leadership you could ever tell. But I've always thought about that. This guy who looked around and everyone's comfortable and said, we can't sit and be comfortable. It's what happened at Netflix. It's what happens all over the place.
I love that. Thank you so much, Mark. You're amazing. You're an incredible storyteller. You're fascinating to talk to. I'm excited for everyone else to read this book. That will never work. I genuinely believe that if you've got a big idea, you've got a small idea, you've got no idea, this book's going to help you navigate the process of getting started and then navigate the process of actually making it happen. And I think those two are so distant. It feels sometimes they feel so far away. But this book will definitely get you closer. Mark, we end every interview with a final 5. So I ask you a final 5 rapid fire, quick fire questions. So you have to answer each question in 1 word to 1 sentence maximum. If I allow you to go on, then you can. And I probably will because you're...
No, you don't.
So here are the questions. The final 5. Number 1, what's your favorite slice of pizza? Start easy.
Plain cheese, man.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Question number 2, the best trail you've ever hiked. Or your favorite hike of all time, because I know you love being in the outdoors.
It's the it's the one along the coast of Italy, the Cinque Terre.
Okay, wonderful.
It's a small trail.
Why that one?
It's a small trail that these 5 towns, which are only accessible by fishing boat.
Oh, wow.
They're really old towns, and they've built this network of trails that connects the 5 towns that run right along the ocean.
Amazing.
Oh, spectacular.
I love that. Okay, awesome. Question number 3. 1 company you wish you started.
Ooh. Am I allowed to hit a buzzer and pass?
I guess another way of rephrasing it is a problem you wish you would have solved. Like, was there a problem that you try to solve, but then you've seen someone else actually solve it really well? If there isn't, then you can pass, and I'll choose another one.
What does it say about me that I can't immediately jump to a 1-word answer about that?
No, that's okay.
Because of course there's hundreds of things where I go, oh my God, that was so clever. I wish I'd done that.
Yeah.
I can't think
That's
of
okay.
one.
That's cool. We'll substitute that for another one. So your question number 3 is, tell us about the Canada principle. Yeah.
One
in
word.
more than 1 sentence. Yeah, you can tell us in 1 sentence.
Sometimes it seems that you can easily get a 10% lift, for example, as we could have by expanding to Canada. But it's always harder than you think. And that if you take that same 10% of time or effort or attention and focus it on your core problem, you'll reap much bigger rewards. Another way of saying it, beware of low-hanging fruit because it rarely is.
Nice. Wonderful. Great piece of advice. Awesome. Question number 4, your favorite show to binge watch or your favorite TV show? You made everyone else have so much access to TV.
Almost done with Sex Education.
Okay.
Oh my God, that is hysterical and fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah, no, I was thinking one of the problems, I'm just going off on a tangent here. I think one of the problems that I was thinking when you were talking about the paint can, what I was thinking about was struggling to find what to watch at night.
Oh,
like that is literally the problem I think of all day long. Me and my wife could sit down and we could spend an hour trying to figure out what to watch, especially when it's 2 of us. I can figure out what to watch when I'm on my own. There's 2 of us and then you don't watch anything because it's too late.
Why is that so hard? One of your listeners has to
totally
go fix that.
Yeah.
But here's another principle, which is that if something seems obvious, there's something you don't know.
Right. So go on, tell us more.
That it's just that if it's something, what you have to do before you have this great idea and you go, it seems like there should be an obvious solution, there's something you're missing.
Right.
So what you've got to do is do the research and say, who has tried this?
Yes.
What is the unknown barrier that I just don't see?
Yes.
Otherwise, you end up just repeating the same mistake someone else has made before.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So someone out there, please go and solve this.
Yes, please. And
please.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, exactly. Approach Mark about it.
By tomorrow, hopefully.
I love it. And the fifth and final question is, what is one habit you're most proud of breaking?
Most proud of breaking.
Yeah, any habits that you've broken in your life that you think were good habits, mental, physical?
Sure. A recent one is the cell phone addiction.
Okay, tell us about that.
It's such an obvious one, but everyone is afflicted with it. And now it's almost like being an ex-smoker, which I was never a smoker. But now you see people and you go, oh my God, what are you doing? The constant pulling it out this habitually.
Yeah.
And it's just taken me the sense of saying, leave it in your pocket, leave it. And I finally actually gotten to the point where now I no longer have that urge to grab for the phone at every time I have a spare moment. And it's partly this wonderfulness, this wonder of stopping and taking it in. I mean, it's a standing meditation when you're in line or when the plane lands and everyone goes on their phone. No, just look around. I mean, it's a cool replacement.
Yeah.
I'm really, really digging it. So, I was, this was unfortunately not too long ago, but I was flying someplace and I was flying first class. And something was wrong. I don't know, something with the seat, or I didn't get my first choice of meal, or the wet little towel was too dry, or something so stupid. And I remember us complaining to my wife, and I had this revelation, like, you stupid bastard, how dare you? How could you possibly be complaining about something like that? And it was this moment where I realized I am so unbelievably lucky. I have to appreciate everything about how unbelievably fortunate that I've been. That I've had this idea that actually turned into a real company, that I've had the chance to spend time with my wife and my family and have all these things happen. I do not deserve anything else, especially not to be complaining about that. So I think I take back my stupid answer about the cell phones. That is not the most important habit. The most important habit I broke was pity, and recognizing how lucky I am.
Well, thank you so much, Mark, for doing the final 5. Thank you for being on purpose. It's been awesome talking to you. And everyone who's been listening or watching back at home, you can get the book, That Will Never Work, The Birth of Netflix and the Amazing Life of an Idea by Mark Randolph. I highly recommend going out and picking up the book and diving into the story of the place that's giving us all the stories that we consume. I mean, to figure out the fact that there are literally how many people in the world now? Like 150 million subscribers?
150 million.
Million subscribers in the world, all of us consuming off this platform, to figure out how it was actually birthed, what happened behind it, and really what happened behind the scenes. Go and check it out. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you have subscribed if you haven't already. And please, please, please go and follow Mark Randolph. Mark, where can they find you if they want to follow more of your work and hear your insights?
They can find me at markrandolph.com or at MB Randolph.
Perfect. Awesome. Please, please, please go check out Mark. And thank you so much for watching. And make sure, what I'd love for you to do with this episode, genuinely, there were so many moments where there were so many subtle points, tips, and hints that I'd love for you to find those and share them on Instagram and Twitter as well. I love noticing what you're learning from these sessions, and make sure you tag in me and Mark as well so that we can respond and see what you've taken away. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Mark, thank you as well.
Jay, what a pleasure. Thanks for your time.
If you want even more videos just like this one, make sure you subscribe and click on the boxes over here. I'm also excited to let you know that you can now get my book, Think Like a Monk, from thinklikeamonkbook.com. Check below in the description to make sure you order today.